The New York Jets are doing the dumbest thing possible. I don't usually lead off shows with my own take, but I don't believe that this is a smart move by the Jets, and it's seriously going to screw over the Seattle Seahawks. Of course, I'm talking about the decisions around the running back position and what the Jets are going to decide to do with Breece Hall. What is that thing? Well, I'll let you know here in just a moment, but make sure that you share today's video. We're trying to grow the Seahawks Today family, and we're going to have a ton of content around the Seattle Seahawks this entire offseason, but specifically over the next week because, well, the Seattle Seahawks, they are going through the NFL Combine right now, just like all 31 other teams in the National Football League. So there's all kinds of news you don't want to miss out on. Make sure that you share this video, and let's dive into the video. What are the New York Jets doing? This is Seahawks Today. I am your host, Will Ortner, and Breece Hall is supposed to be a free agent. Breece Hall is supposed to be someone who is kind of driving up or driving away bidders from Kenneth Walker. Breece Hall is supposed to be one of the top two free agent running backs, and it wouldn't make sense for an NFL franchise to come in and franchise tag or transitional tag a running back, right? Well, not according to the New York Jets.
Yeah, the tags are an option. Ideally, we'd find a way to get a deal done and keep Breece around. I think I've said that for the last year since I've got here. Breece is a good player. Want to find a way to keep him around. We've been going through that process and are still doing so. And, we have a week to find out, if we can't get to an agreement, which way we'll go with that tag. Yeah, we'll find a way to keep Breece here if we can't get a deal done.
Do you get the sense that he wants to be here long term?
I do get the sense that Breece wants to be here. We've had good conversations throughout the season, after the season, so just finding a way to do that.
This completely screws over the Seattle Seahawks. What are the Jets doing? Everyone knows you don't pay running backs anymore, or you keep it with the status quo. That's why they had that stupid meeting. There's no reason for the New York Jets to come in and franchise tag or transitional tag a guy like Breece Hall. Transition tag, whatever it is called. I'm going to tell you why it doesn't make sense for the Jets, but more importantly, why the Jets are actually putting the Seahawks in an absolutely brutal position for Kenneth Walker, because now that Breece Hall is no longer going to be a free agent option for a lot of these teams, Kenneth Walker, he becomes the belle of the ball. Speaking of belle of the balls, that's what you're going to be if you go in and you grab the sweet Seattle Drinking Team t-shirt for St. Patrick's Day. Look at this thing. It's fresh. It's fly. You're joining the newly established Drinking Team. We've got it in green as well as the navy. The link is going to be in the comment section and description of today's video. You just have to click on it. It'll take you right where you need to go. Super comfortable t-shirts. I got my Mob Mentality t-shirt on right now. It's made of the same material and super affordable, only $29.99. Make sure that you go and pick up yours today, and it's just as easy as going into the comment section or description of today's video and clicking on our link. It'll get you right where you need to go. So at the beginning of the year, we had notable free agent running backs. So this is what the expected free agent running backs were supposed to be. And as you can look at the top, it's pretty clear that Breece Hall and Kenneth Walker are going to be the 1 and 2 running backs in this class. Now, that's not to say that ETN isn't good or that Dobbins isn't good. Rachaad White has clearly had some success. Najee Harris, depending on how he comes off of his injury. Isaiah Pacheco's had success. Dowdle is very darn good out in Carolina. But it's pretty obvious and pretty clear that most teams valued Breece Hall and Kenneth Walker. They were the top backs, especially after the longevity that Hall has had, or the success early on in his career, I should say, and how well he has performed. But more importantly, I think what has been very big and what has really grown for Kenneth Walker is the success that he's had as the season went on this year. He kind of turned back into what he was doing when he was a rookie running back. And I think that's very important to kind of note and very important to talk about. Now, when we look at their stats, they're pretty darn similar. The yardage isn't too different. When we look at the average, it's not too different. Touchdowns. Kenneth Walker wasn't even the guy who was running in the low red zone. But again, they're basically the same running back. It's a similar style. Kenneth Walker is going to be a little more slow moving, and then he explodes. When you look at a guy like Breece Hall, he's very silky smooth. He's going to find openings. Now, with both of these running backs, they fit really well into a zone scheme system, which Seattle runs, and a lot of other teams in the National Football League, they love to run. So it makes sense why they'd be the top running backs. They're both also very young, going into their second contract. So it makes sense why teams would value both. But if Breece Hall is going to be out of the equation, which was essentially just put out there by the New York Jets, they said, hey, doesn't matter, we're going to tag him if we don't get a deal done. Well, that means then that teams are going to offer Kenneth Walker more money because they absolutely have to. If they don't offer him that money, then they're going to have to go to their B, C, D, E, or F options. And a lot of teams don't want to do that, especially if they think they're one player away. When we look at the free agent running backs now, not at the beginning like the last list, you can see that not only is Breece Hall off there because it's pretty clear that he will end up staying in New York, but so is Javonte Williams because he re-signed with the Dallas Cowboys. And because he re-signed with the Dallas Cowboys, now there's another back that's taken off that list. So Kenneth Walker becomes even more valuable. And while this might be a little bit of a bold claim, I don't think it's crazy to say that Kenneth Walker is the undisputed top running back in free agency. He has become the belle of the ball. And because he is now the belle of the ball, teams are going to go and try to outbid each other. We've seen this happen time after time after time in the National Football League where a player is worth X amount, but they end up almost making 1.5 to double X amount that they were supposed to because of the timing of when they hit free agency. Kenneth Walker, he just had maybe the best 6 games of his career. He is the number 1 running back in a running back class that isn't loaded in free agency, and the NFL draft class isn't loaded in the running back position after you get by Jeremiah Love for Notre Dame. Kenneth Walker becomes so much more valuable to all of these other teams, including the Seattle Seahawks. But when you become so much more valuable to all these other teams, they're going to be more willing to offer you bigger sums of cash. And that means they're going to put the Seahawks, I believe, in a very difficult position. Do you overpay for Kenneth Walker? Or do you move on from him and take a lesser option, knowing that you're not going to get Charbonnet back more than likely until the halfway point of the season, if not later? Now, there's still a fingers crossed moment where maybe he can come back a little sooner, but you're really betting and doubling down there on Charbonnet, on a hope, on a whim, on something that isn't backed by stats or by years and years of research from players coming back from injury. I digress. Is Kenneth Walker the best running back in free agency? Do you agree with my opinion? Answer yes or no down below in the comment section. If you agree with me, you're going to answer yes. If you do not, you're going to answer no. What are the Hawks going to do? When we look at what Kenneth Walker is going to be valued, it is clear that the Seahawks want to find a way to bring him back to Seattle. John Schneider, he went in and he had a part of his press conference today where he talked about Kenneth Walker. And it was clear that he wants to find a way to bring him back. But the question on everyone's mind is, what is the value of Kenneth Walker that Seattle is not willing to spend beyond? Is there a number where Kenneth Walker becomes too expensive? Because if he does become too expensive, what are the Seahawks going to do as a backup plan? Here is John Schneider talking about Kenneth Walker and how badly he wants him to remain a Seahawk.
Yeah, Super Bowl MVP, you know. I kind of lost it at the I got nervous at the I was talking in front of all those people today, and Ken's like, what are you talking about? I totally made that up. Like, I just lost it. No, we'd love to have Ken back. You know, it's and he knows us better than anybody. It's about our 70, you know, and our collective, and what that's going to look like, and we'll have those meetings down here where we'll start talking to all the agents and we'll have a better feel where we're going here towards the end of the week. But obviously, we'd love to have everybody. We want to have everybody back. Right when you get done with something special like that, you're like, hey, let's run it back. It's going to be an interesting process.
So clearly the Seahawks want to find a way to make sure that K9 stays in Seattle. They have a clear plan, and even Schneider joked about saying, we're trying to do the negotiations already while they were going through the parade. Obviously the joke didn't land, but I do think it's important to kind of look at what a K9 contract looks like now, because frankly, it's going to be a little bit different than what I think was originally projected. We've put out a couple videos here on the channel, and the big one that we kind of dove into more of the contract negotiations or what the projected number is going to be for Kenneth Walker was from Spot Track, and they had him essentially at a 4-year deal, just over $36 million, so essentially $9 million a year. That's why the Adam Schefter report that came out about a week ago had the Seahawks not putting the transition tag or the franchise tag on Kenneth Walker because the number was too high. Now, when we look at what the Jets' options are, is they're either going to put the transition tag on Breece Hall, which would end up being just under $12 million, or they can put the franchise tag on Breece Hall for $14.5 million. Now, what I find very fascinating, very interesting here is that you would have to expect that if the Jets are trying to get a deal done, that means that they're more than likely going to pay a little bit higher than the transition tag, hopefully a little bit lower than the franchise tag for Breece Hall. At least that's my original inclination going into this. I'm sure there's plenty of salary cap experts in the comment section that are going to tell me differently. When you look at the highest paid running backs, they're at that transition tag ends up putting Breece Hall right at number 7 in the National Football League for highest paid running backs. And the franchise tag would actually put him right in that 4th spot, which I do find very interesting. Now, I believe that Kenneth Walker is going to get a bigger contract than Breece Hall because you are going to see teams get desperate. This is going to be like last call at the bar, and there's one hot chick left, and dudes are going after her heavy. They're offering to buy drinks. They're offering to show, hey, look at these cool things that I've got going on for me. Look at me, I'm rich. It is going to be an expensive bidding war to try and get Kenneth Walker. We've all seen that last call at the bar. When we look at Kenneth Walker's stats here, obviously the 2 years in the middle kind of take a dip, specifically 2024. But K9 showed that when he is a feature back, he can be an absolute star in the NFL. If you look at 22 and 25, and in 25, he actually got better and better as the year went on. So it is important to note that it makes sense for a lot of these teams to want to go after him, the Seattle Seahawks included in that. Seattle needs to do everything in their power to make sure that they can retain Kenneth Walker, so that way they can continue to kind of build on the success that they've been having and keep hitting the ground running. Crystal ball time. Where's Kenneth Walker going to play next season? I want you to predict it down below in the comment section. None of this I hope. None of this I think. None of this. Predict it. He will be a Seattle Seahawk next year. That is my prediction right now for Kenneth Walker. If I'm wrong, well, that would be unfortunate. My prediction is that Kenneth Walker is going to still make $36 million, just like Spot Track had him listed at. The difference is he's going to do that in 3 years now, in my opinion. That's going to put him at about $12 million a year. So that's going to put him pretty high up on that number. Going to put him right around Josh Jacobs at that 6th spot for running backs, highest paid salary. But it is important to note that that is still below the franchise tag because, unfortunately for Kenneth Walker, I don't believe that he is a top 5 running back in the National Football League, let alone a top 4 running back in the National Football League. So I would not pay him that amount of money. I still think that that's actually a slight overpay for Kenneth Walker. But unfortunately, if the Seahawks want to make that deal done and want to retain their running back, they're going to have to find a way to keep him, and they're probably going to have to overpay for him. Are the Seahawks willing to pay that price? I don't really know, but it definitely feels like the New York Jets have forced the Seahawks' hands and put them in a position where they're either going to have to overpay or they're not going to overpay. And then the real question begins, where did the Seahawks go at running back from there? Is it George Alani? Is it a fingers crossed Zach Charbonnet comes back healthy? Are you adding someone in free agency, or are you adding someone in the draft? That's a big, big ask, because Seattle, they've done a great job of adding in a lot of key players. I will say that. The running back position, it can be hard to find some of those top 2 guys. It can be hard to find a feature back. Schneider's done it before. Found Kenneth Walker. Found Zach Charbonnet. Hopefully he'll be able to do it a third time if he ends up needing to. Make sure that you share this video on social media. Grow the family of Seahawks Today. And if this is your first time checking out our channel, or you've been checking out our channel for a couple of videos and you haven't hit that sub button, what are you doing? It's ridiculous. Go on in, hit that sub button. We've got you covered daily for your Seattle Seahawks content. Thank you guys so much for viewing today's video, and I can't wait to see you next time.